Good evening and welcome to Fallout Bar Night 13. And Dob has got a well-deserved night off, so I'm stepping in to host this evening. And I am joined by Premier League regular. It's probably the best way to explain it. I'm joined by Premier League regular Cam. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad at all. I'm not sure you're so accurate on your intro there. Well deserved might not be the right words, but he's got a night off at least.
Yeah, I don't want to be too harsh on him because I know it's going to be him probably in front of the camera next week, and he'll give me some stick if I'm not nice to him. So for once, I'll be nice to him. Anyway, as always, thank you very much for everyone who's joining us on this Thursday evening, Friday morning, Thursday afternoon, depending where you are in the world.
Maybe, yeah,
depending where you are in the world. And thank you as always for BoyleSports for their continued support as we move into night 13. As always, if you can like, get involved in the chat as we go along, share it with your friends and retweet and whatever you do on social media, that would be muchly appreciated. Before we go into tonight's action, Cam, generally your thoughts on, now we're getting towards the back end of the Premier League, your thoughts just overall on this evening's play?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we saw some good, we saw some not so good. I think it was kind of a little microcosm of the Premier League that we've seen so far. There's bits where it's magic and it's great, and there's bits where it's not so good. I think there were moments where I don't want to say that the players don't look up for it, but there are little bits of that we see at times where it looks a little bit like they're all feeling it's a bit the same each week. But we also saw some absolute quality at times as well. And I think tonight was probably one of the better nights we've seen.
Yeah, probably I'd really disagree with that. There was moments of utter brilliance, and then there was moments where it was decent. There wasn't any real poor games, I would say. There was a couple of poor performances, but not as much poor games. And we'll start off with a game that probably everyone in Scotland didn't want to see playing against each other. There, two Scottish heroes, full World Championships between them, and it was Peter Wright and Gary Anderson to open up proceedings on what was a big sporting night in Glasgow anyway, with obviously Rangers taking part in European football, but we also had the two Scottish Titans going head-to-head in this opener, and it was Gary Anderson who got the better with a 6-2 win. And we'll start with Gary on this. It's someone who's not won since night 6, now in night 13. It's been a really bad run from the Scotsman, only won in 2 Premier League nights, and obviously one of which he went on and went all the way and picked up all 3 wins, but 97 average. Step in the right direction for Gary?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good from Gary, actually. It was definitely a step up from what we've seen for the last few weeks from him since probably the night he won. And to be honest, even on that night, you wouldn't say he was at his magical best. So I think it was a good, definitely a step in the right direction, and good to see him get that win. Like you say, not the game everyone wanted to see. Well, probably not strictly true. Everyone wanted to see that game, but in the final, not in round 1.
Yeah, it was a game that obviously been in Scotland 2 weeks ago, and we only saw one Scottish win that night. We was guaranteed one this time, and it probably wasn't how they wanted to see. But just before we move on, just want to say hello to a few people who jumped in the chat room. Sorry, my apologies. Cullen was one of the first in. Also, Jan Clipper, Daniel was in with us this morning. See, I'm even there.
You've got already,
yeah. Andrew has joined the party. Matthew's in. Jamie's trying to entice Dob to the party by a few football chants, but I always have to remind you this is a dart show, not a football show, because otherwise I would get humiliated.
You would be off, yeah. You would not be on here whatsoever. And to be honest, me neither, being a Blackburn fan, we're not exactly top of the tree, me and you, are we?
Yeah, we would not be on. So just back to the first game. As I said, Gary Anderson, performance of someone who's probably knows that their Premier League race has run. However, it's a big year for probably Gary, because we can see him dropping off. He always seems to find a night or a competition where he does it. But do you think these next 3 weeks are let's get some form, or it's just more of a I've got to turn up and do it, so I'm just going to go and do that?
Unfortunately, I do think it is the second one of those. It's realistically, it's going to be very, very tough at this stage for him to make it. He's going to need at least 2 night wins, maybe even 3, depending on who else reaches the later stages of those events. It's going to be tough for him, and I think it's probably a case of let's get this out of the way and focus on the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Nothing much has changed. A better performance from Gary here. However, Peter Wright only averaging 87. Probably allowed Gary in that down quite a bit more than what we'd say. But like I says, it's his first win since night 6. Also, he's second over Peter Wright. So he's only won 5 games, but 2 of which have come against Peter Wright in the 4 meetings that they've played each other. And very unusual to normal. I know Dob only treats you to 1 interview clip. However, no, I'm hosting. I can treat you to 2. No, it does. It does. We're in Glasgow, and Peter's done one with us. We've just got a little clip from Peter, and we'll just dissect some things that Peter mentions. Obviously, running into the last 3 weeks of this Premier League.
Don't panic. I've got class in the glass. So you watch. I'll be there. I told you I'm going to win it. So all that matters is next couple of weeks, get the points, do the business, and then I'm there, ready for the finals. I'll beat anybody in the world. It's just whether I'm prepared, correct for it. If I haven't prepared, correct for it, then I will lose. But if I have, they will lose.
Has there enough track in these things, Peter? I mean, just picking at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the moment, the most thing I'm planning for is the World Cup and the match play. Yes, I said to everyone, I'm going to win this. Yeah, I'll still win this, but I'll probably win it scrappily. The past couple of years, the players have won it and never performed well. So
that's what I mean. You just I'll to get to final,
turn up and then turn up and win it, and then play well in the World Cup with John, and then play well in the match play when it matters. That's what I'm looking at.
Cam, quite an insight there from Peter for me in a couple of things. First of all, class in the glass. That man can ooze confidence even after a 6-2 win when he's done. Probably one of the other things allude to there is last year we saw him predict what he's going to lift, the two of the big ones. I don't then to that debate now in regards to the match play in the Worlds, but now he's not only predicting what he's going to win, he's predicting how he's going to do it, and then it's going to be a scrappy affair, but he's going to lift it. Your thoughts on confidence sort of from nowhere with the performance that we've got?
Yeah, well, we know he doesn't lack confidence, does he? He never lacks confidence. He always likes to tell us what he's going to do, and to be fair, he backs it up a lot of the time as well. I mean, to say he's going to win it and win it properly, he's not sure of a spot in the finals yet. And if he's not going to perform well until he gets to the final, which is basically what he said there, he may not see that final. He's going to have to find something more than he found tonight. Otherwise, he might be in a little bit of trouble. And there's a couple of people there that just behind him that, yes, he's got a little bit of a break. There is a bit of a gap now in the table that there possibly wasn't a couple of weeks ago, but he's not sure of being there yet. And what I do quite like, which I love the World Cup. I think it's great. And the fact that he's always thinking about the World Cup, I always kind of think the players think it's a bit of a... It's not one of the majors. It's not something that really counts towards the year so much, but he fancies a little go in the World Cup and he fancies defending his title, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
But he needs to focus on this, and he needs probably a win or 2 if he's going to guarantee that spot in the finals.
Yeah, just on that. He mentions the World Cup, and he mentioned it there. Also in commentary, the first game, Stuart Pike mentioned it there, and we've not seen any official confirmation from the PDC, but both of which allude to that Peter Wright will be playing with Henderson. So Peter Wright's alluded to it in an interview last week. He said it there. with Phil. Pity's mentioned it on Tom's today. So it's looking light. And we're not going into too much detail because we are into the Premier League, but it's very much looking light that either the PDC have steered that, or Gary Anderson and a number of other Scottish players who are above John Anderson in the order of merit have stepped to one side. But it looks like it's Peter and Endo in the final, in the World Cup team, which is the same week as the Premier League final. So the Premier League final's on the Monday night. Yeah. And that following weekend that would see Peter and Hendo defending it. But it seems like that has been decided, which for me I agree with. Just obviously very briefly, your thoughts on that one?
No, I completely agree. I don't think you can split up the defending champions. I think that John's not the number 2 Scottish player right now, but they did win it last year, and it just wouldn't be if you have Scotland going in as the defending champions and you've got a different team, it just wouldn't have the same sort of effect and the same sort of prestige. So if you go and beat like Wright and Alan Souter or whoever it might be, it wouldn't be the same as knocking out the defending champions because essentially you're not doing. So, yeah, I do agree with it. I think it's right.
Yeah, I am on board with that. Just before we move on to game number 2, evening to Henry, who has joined us, who is doing the darting double screen tonight because he made his online darts live lead commentary debut tomorrow. So he will be watching the other one and letting the stats down. But as Toast is joining us, so Henry, all the best tomorrow on your debut in commentary. I'm sure you'll smash it as you did at the late side, my friend. So all the best to you. So just moving on to game number 2, which is Johnny Clayton versus James Wade. And for James Wade, he's been in the final 3 of the last 4 weeks. Just wasn't to be here against Johnny Clayton, whose finishing was enough and got him over the line in this one, as well as those 140s that he loves to hit down.
Yeah, you beat me to it there on the 140s. That's what I was going to say. Those 140s just kept Wade at bay. And most of the time, you see James Wade average 93 and 40% on his doubles. You think he's probably won that match, or he's going to be very close to it at least. But he only got 5 darts a double in the entire match because Johnny's scoring was just consistent, and he just kept himself ahead. I think it was I fancied Wade to have another run. I thought he's the form player right now. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember much of last week. I'm not, I know that he won. I can't remember much of the final. I did hear in commentary earlier that Johnny Clayton missed 2 darts for the match in that final. I don't remember that either, but I was in the arena last week, and so I was certainly not taking notes.
No, there's one thing for James Wade. We're coming into the last 3 weeks. There's a lot of talk about should James Wade be in, and it wasn't around his position. I guess we'd seen people like Noppy. Sorry, not Noppy. That's been more recent. We've seen other players who were probably spoken about in more of a light. Rob Cross in the European Championships. Yeah. Obviously, Jose runner-up. James Wade doesn't have that appeal normally, but he was sat. I think he was sat in 5th, moved up to 3rd and back down to 5th in that time that he's been picked. Obviously, UK Open winner. But for someone who was probably against James Wade being in there, and if I was picking an 8 at the start of this year, James Wade wouldn't have been in mine. I'll still hold my hands up through that.
Yeah.
To be honest, he's proven, not that he has to prove me wrong, but he's put in an awful good performance over more than anything, these past 5 or 6 weeks that has put him in a position now where he's 10 points in front of 5th place with only 3 weeks remaining. So for me, as Dud has secured that top 4 position. So full credit must go to James Wade.
100%. Like, I was completely with you. I was not going to pretend I wasn't. I was against James Wade being in this tournament, and the last 6 weeks he has been the best player in the tournament, comfortably, I would say. And yeah, so that was it surprised me a little bit how comfortably Johnny handled him tonight, to be honest. And I think that's credit to Johnny as well in terms of he was struggling for a few weeks, and he's found something recently that he seems to be flying again now.
I would just argue with you the best player in the past 6 weeks because Johnny Clayton's been in 4 finals out of 6 weeks and won 3 of them. But I totally get what you're saying, that in that sort of category at the moment, there's 3 players that the league tables not just showing in regards to the positioning, but probably in the current form, that's where they deserve to be, those three, and the Arse seem to be a step above the others, and like I said, seem to have cemented their places. But for Johnny Clayton, it was a win, and progressing through to the next round to take on a Scotsman in Scotland again, which we saw a couple of weeks ago, and we'll come on to that semi-final shortly. Just before we come on to that, we've got a couple more quarterfinals to discuss, one of which is between Bully Boy Michael Smith and Derwin Price. We saw these compete at the World Championships on the 1st of January this year. We saw them meet tonight, and it was Michael Smith who got the better of Derwin Price with a 6-3 win. Thoughts on Derwin Price, first of all? Worrying times for Desi? Or do you think another one who's probably put this Premier League now to the back of his mind and is just trying to get that sharpness ready for future comps?
Yeah, I think something's still not right. He's still not, I can't see that he's either 100% fit or 100% able to put in the hours that he usually would, because he's just probably like half a dart away from where you would usually expect him to be and where we would think he would be. And he just doesn't look like he's quite got it at the moment. But I think his focus was kind of always a little bit off this Premier League. The fact he was doing events in the middle of it, like the boxing that was meant to happen and things like that. And maybe he had kind of always written it off and decided that this isn't my one for the year, and I'm going to go after the bigger events later in the year that count towards the ranking as well, and look to cement that world number one place. But I think he's probably done now in this Premier League. I don't think we see him get to the finals night. I think he can still make it, and he could comfortably still make it if he has a really good run. But I know he's not the closest player to him, but he's within touching distance. But I just don't see it. And I just think he's another one, like Gary, that will move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think he probably needs to win 8 out of 9 games. Probably needs 3 finals, 2 of which to pick up the title as well.
Yeah.
To get that sort of thing. Can he do it? He's doing
easily. He could do. He could turn up and make us look stupid, but
yeah, of course he can. He can do it, and that's that is Derwin Price. That would show what Derwin Price can do in his fighting mentality on that thing. But for Michael Smith, especially early on, we saw Derwin Price start 1-0 up. Michael Smith then was just out of this world. He was averaging 108, but didn't start the first leg very well. So that was probably even higher across those 3 legs. Didn't even give Desi a chance at a double. And that probably just gave him that extra edge in this one. And then was very, very comfortable. Finished with a 99.19 average from Bully Boy. Seems to really enjoy playing Desi, Dan.
He does, and for some reason he seems to have something over him, whereas it seems to be opposite when he plays Peter Wright, where Peter Wright just seems to have that little hold over Michael Smith. And it could only be, for me, a confidence thing that he feels like he's going up on stage already thinking, I've got him here and I'm going to win. And that's all I can see is the difference, because we know how good Michael Smith is. He can beat anyone on the day, no matter how well they play. He can put in those performances, but we're just not seeing it from him enough. And I mean, that shows in the table, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Just to answer a couple of questions in the chat room, Players Championships next week. Yes, we do have Pro Tours on Tuesday, Wednesday next week. We will be streaming those as well. A bit like COVID, Pro Tours return to midweek action. They are on Tuesday and Wednesday. And regarding a couple of questions in the online live lead stream, that is available on Online Darts on our YouTube channel. This is one link, and that is another show that's running. We've got 2 shows running at the same time. So if you are tuning into Online Darts, please stay with us until the end of this show, and then you can go over and join the action later on. Just moving on to the 4th and final quarterfinal. What an opportunity this was for Joe Cullen. You probably wouldn't think it at the start of the game, but then levelling it up against MVG, going 5-all from 5-2 down, getting to that decider. Yes, it was with the MVG throw, but missed opportunity for Joe Tam.
Yes, but like you say, early in the game, it didn't look like he was even in it, to be honest, for a long time. And But then once he levels up, you think he's got all the momentum, as we say. He's got the momentum. He's going to go into this final leg, and yes, it's MVG's darts, but he could probably do something here. But then MVG kicks off 180, 139, and then it kind of put the leg to bed a little bit. I know Joe still got an opportunity to finish at the end after a couple of missed doubles from Van Gogh, but it was a pretty clinical final leg.
Yeah, it was. It was just, I guess, with that result early on, not sure how much it would have played on Joe's mind that Peter Wright was losing, because it seems like before tonight, that was probably the one player he was looking at, and continued probably now, moving into next week. But with that Peter Wright loss, which no one was probably expecting with how Darius played, it was a big opportunity, and that probably played on Joe's mind early on for him to dial behind like he did. It was an okay performance from Joe, but for me, even on the MVG dart, it was a bit of a missed opportunity there, because MVG did look a bit edgy in that one. But there is still a chance for Joe Cullen. As I said, that Peter Wright defeat has opened that up. 5 points is, I don't want to say it's easy to do, to win in the night, and he's only done it once. But to win, as we were saying, Derwin Price probably needs to win 8 out of 9 games, if not 9. It's kind of different for Joe. Joe probably needs to win 6, I'd probably say, depending on how they fall, depending on if it's
but yeah,
that is very hard with the top 8 players in the world.
Obviously,
if we can start that very well, and already, obviously, we'll come onto the fixture shortly. He opens up next week against James Wade. Yes, he's a top 4 player currently. However, as you know, with Wade, and Joe has got the darts, you know he will get those opportunities if he can be strung on his own throw.
Yep, and not only that, Peter Wright opens up against MVG, and MVG has the darts. So it is a big opportunity again, because I don't know about you, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves and start predicting next week already, I know where I'm leaning in that game right now.
As we know on these streams, that can change very, very quickly, can we? Can change in a few seconds.
Yeah, 100%.
Moving on then to semi-finals in Glasgow. As I alluded to earlier on, it was Johnny Clayton facing another Scotsman in Scotland. And as expected, the fans were against him. However, a lot better than what we saw in Aberdeen just 2 weeks ago in regards to, yes, there was booing, but we sort of expected that. But from what I was aware, there was no whistling, there was no sort of putting off, there was nothing towards in that sense. So that was very good to see. However, what a game. What a game of darts. Numbers might not say it, but 4 ton plus shutouts, 2 from each player. Anderson opening up with a 150. We also had a 115, I think it was from Ando, a 110 from Ando.
5, didn't we?
5, sorry. 141 and a 116 from Clayton. Sorry, I did miss it. I was writing my stats down before the last lead, and there's a 116, I think, to finish it off.
There
Or
was.
116 led before. So 5 ton plus shutouts, which we know these players can do, but to see under that pressure that Johnny Clayton was under as well, playing against the Scotsman once then, what a game of darts.
It was, and like you say, you expect a game where you see 5 ton plus finishes to be averaging about 110 each, and it wasn't, to be fair, but the finishing was just incredible from both of them. The scoring was nowhere near what we saw from both of them earlier on, but what a game and what a watch it was. And I mean, just some of that finishing was just magic, wasn't it? And for Johnny to come through that, like you say, it was, the crowd were good tonight. You've got to give them the credit. We were more than happy to jump on it and give them the stick when they're not. They were good tonight. There wasn't really anything we saw where they gave anyone any real stick or tried to deliberately put anyone off or anything like that. Yes, they got booing, but that's fine. As long as it's just booing and it's a wall of noise, it's absolutely fine. And I thought they were good tonight, and I don't know whether partly that was down to the fact they were all watching Rangers at this point, but who knows?
What a win for them, by the way. What a win.
Unbelievable.
However, just back to this game. What a moment at 5-4. Darry Anderson misses 2 darts to make it 5-5 and would have the throw in that final lead. does that sort of show where Darren Anderson is? He's got the crowd behind him. However, those 2 missed darts he's putting him in a situation that he hasn't been in a long time in regards to playing under that pressure, where he really needs to hit those 2, like it says, at a double. Does that sort of show what we're getting from Darry at the moment and where his confidence levels is when he's up on that off tee? More than anything, Tam, more than anything, at the doubles, because obviously treble hitting we know we can do for absolute fun, but more than anything at those doubles.
Yes, but the dart for me wasn't the darts at the doubles. The dart for me was the single 12 trying to set up. I assume it was tops he was trying to set up when he's hit the single 12. Just before that, he should have had 3 clear darts at tops, and he's not, because he's missed that dart. And that's just a lack of concentration in the moment. There's not the pressure getting to him. It's nothing else. He's just not concentrating on dart. That he hit 2 treble 20s and thought this will just go in, and it's not done. And I think that's where he sets himself up, because then he's got to then split it, and then he's only got 2 darts at double, and it's not where he wanted to go, because he wanted to be at the top of the board, and that's where he's missed his opportunity.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It was disappointing. I really wanted, because of the game, because of the checkouts. I really
wanted a final leg, didn't we?
We wanted a final leg. But then moving on to where we did have a final leg, which was in the second semi-final. So Johnny Clayton booked his place in by a 6-4 win against Darry Anderson, and by getting that win, he set up a final with a Michael. It was just which Michael it was down to be, and on this time it was Michael van der Wijn, who found himself 2-0 up in this one, but then 4-2 behind and also 5-4 behind to Bully Boy. But it was MVG who got over the line, and what a win it was for MVG, considering the performance that Michael Smith then followed up with after beating Derwin Price.
Yeah, and again, it was final leg and just a bit of magic from Van Gogh, and he found a 180 in that final leg again. And to go out in 12, there was one visit from Smith. Well, actually, there were 2 per visits from Smith in this leg, but the main one was the 52 to only leave 141. If he got below a ton there, that 104 becomes a lot more difficult for Van Gogh. But when Smith's only sat on 141, they don't go very often 141s. And there just wasn't the same pressure on him. Whereas if Smith hit 2 trebles before that and left himself on a double or on a 2 dart, just single to double combination, there's a lot more pressure on it. And I think that was the little slip up. I know he hit 46 early in the leg, but he kind of recovered from that and still kept himself in the leg. I think that was the one where it made that 114 just a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's not the time to debate if MVG is back to his brilliant best. However, is there moments in this game that show he's getting closer and closer to that, if not already there? When he hit the 106 to make it 4-3 with Smith, either on a double or on a 2 dart finish. I think he was on a double. Then the 104 to win the match, as you said, probably should have been under more pressure. But are those the sort of telltale signs that MVG is working ever closer, because they are the moments that we've seen from years ago on a consistent basis?
Yeah, I think so. And it's not like he's played badly in this game either. It's not like he's needed to pull those finishes out. He has had to pull those finishes out to nick it, but it's not because he's not playing so well and he's had to drag himself over the line. I mean, Smith's averaged a ton and played really well, and he's still beating him and pulling out those shots when he needs them, and that is when you know he's somewhere near, if not right, back towards his best.
Yeah. So we had our final. It was MVG and Johnny Clayton. Just some queries coming in about the online darts live lead and issues with the YouTube channel. I know the guys are working in the background just to make sure that is working more smoothly. Seems on Sporty Stuff TV it's working fine, but on our YouTube channel we will get that sorted, and they are working currently to get that resolved. I've just had a message from the man himself to confirm that. So then we had our final, Tam, and it was Michael van der Wijn and Johnny Clayton. And just on this one, people have complained, me being one of which, about the format, about how the Premier League is, about people playing each other way too much.
Yeah.
However, when these two play, and what a final once then, not the numbers we've seen from the two of them, because they are normally both in the 100+. But I could watch these two more often than probably once a week at the moment, because there is something that they just trigger in each other that made sure their performance levels is there. And it's shown in the first leg with, down here, it was 2 180s and a 177 we saw in that first leg between them.
Not a bad start, is it?
Not a bad start by both. There's just something that happens between them two at the moment that just sort of nudges each other, and it's sort of like we're both going to play our best. And on that note, it's the winner of that night. Fair play to you.
Yeah, they both just play the game, don't they? They get up there, they play at their own pace, they do their own thing, and it really suits both of them. Like, they're not slowing each other down. No one's playing any silly games, any stupid tricks. They both just get up and just go, whichever one of us plays best tonight is going to win this. And we're just going to throw everything at each other. And you say, yeah, not the numbers. Like, they've both finished below 100 average, but for a long, long time in this game, they were well above 100 average. It was only at the end where it got a little bit closer and a little bit more nervy that they dropped off. And I thought it was just a great watch again.
Yeah, it was that in that leg where Johnny broke, which sort of can have a bit of an impact on the scoreline when the player who wins with one break, it looks 6-3 quite a convincing win. When in theory, it's the other way around. It was literally just the 8th leg where there was that break, but Johnny missed 2, I think, before winning it, and I know MVG missed 4, and that sort of had the impact on the average. But generally, I'm with you on that. That it was a very, very high quality game. Just on MVG, before we talk more about Johnny and listen to a clip from Johnny from this evening. Twice tonight, as I've alluded to there, his chat-outs, but twice tonight was 6 perfect darts from the Dream Machine. We saw him
we didn't mention that in the first one, did we?
No, we saw him pick up a second Euro Tour at the weekend. First player to pick up 2 this year. He's dead in there. He's dead in there. And when he gets there and he's back up to that top, is there anyone going to stop him having a run that we've potentially seen before?
Well, we'll see. And that's the only thing you can say with him, though. Yes, he's showing glimpses of it, but the consistency isn't there yet. But if he does find it and finds it regularly, everyone else is on notice and everyone else is in banging trouble. Because, like I say, the 2 times he went 6 perfect darts, they were so good the first 6 that you thought this is going. And then, to be fair, the 7th dart was in a different postcode. But it happens. Like, the crowd gets all excited. It happens that you don't throw a particularly good dart, but I think we're going to see one from him before the end of the tournament. I think we see one.
Big shout, Cam. 4 weeks left.
I think it's there. It's close.
Yeah. It's hard to argue because he keeps putting himself in that situation. There's those big chat-outs he's hitting throughout the night. And for me, a big chat-out isn't always a 170 or a 167 or those. It's those, a ton plus. Sometimes even your 60 plus where it's a 2 dart, if it's clean as anything. But those are coming back into MVG's game. So it's just that in that level. And we saw, like I said, some of his clinical finishing tonight. The 180s are back. His darts are lying very nicely in the board. How he would be back to it in those 180s. So it's hard to disagree that one's coming. Whether it comes in these 4 weeks. Is it 4 weeks? Yeah, 3 normal league nights and then the finals night.
Do you know what I want to see?
Not sure, but I like the big showdown.
I want to see him go the Gezi way, and because he keeps dragging that 7th dart low, especially on the last one where it was so far low. Go down the board and then go up. Go 19s, 20s, and then 12s. Because then at least he's aiming down the board anyway, and it might take the drag out of it.
Yeah, I see that.
Who am I to tell him what to do? Because that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But why not?
No, I see that. I do get it. I understand why Desi do it. That's for me, the flip side of that, just to play sort of devil's advocate.
You've thrown 6 180s 6 treble 20s in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is probably the thought process in there. Yeah. And with someone like Michael who's, and I'm sure he won't mind us using the word, he's stubborn. he wants to do it, and he wants to do it his way, and his way is the right way.
Yeah.
I don't see him changing that 1-4-1 out until he hits it, and then he might do. Actually, that took me too many. Next time I'll do it 19s, or next time
I'll go 15 treble 20s, double 18, whatever way you want to go.
So, well, those 17s tops ball with a number of ways that.
Then again, to be fair, when he left that 104 earlier, he went 16s first, and he went 16 treble 16 for tops. But so he's not against going a different way.
Yeah, he's not against it. I just think he wants to sort of find that out first. And I'm with you. That 9 is coming. Whether it comes in these Premier League weeks, I don't know. But if not, he will hit us on a Euro tour in the next coming months. I'm sure of that. Yeah. But then moving on to our winner, and can confirm the first person to be confirmed in the playoffs is Johnny Clayton, currently on 34 points. No one else yet to be confirmed, and no one else yet eliminated. But Johnny Clayton can't be taught by Joe Cullen, which means that Johnny Clayton is secured, and Tam is 6 points clear now of MVG. And yes, there's no prize money, but I'm sure after 16 weeks he would still like to be top of that tree.
100%, of course he will. And I'll be honest, 6 weeks ago, I didn't see this coming. And I thought MVG had this league stage almost wrapped up already, that he was top of the league, he had a huge leg difference and he was going to run away with it. But Johnny's reeled him in and kind of gone away from him now. And there's a very good chance right now that he finishes up there, because even if MVG wins a week and Clayton doesn't win a game, he's still going to be top.
This is where they all come into the party. Tommy's jumping in now. Good evening, guys. I'm Untitled Clayton. Sound like Dob, you do, Tommy. All in the Clayton win.
Yeah. Is that Gob's alter ego, is it?
It could well be. But on Johnny Clayton, just one, the performance, obviously, we mentioned there, it was just sort of that moment, that 8th lead that was sort of the changing point. It would have been interesting to see him go and battle it out at all 11. But one thing that I got with Clayton, and I've seen it early on, we've seen it in most weeks. Obviously, he's a prolific 140 to Tam, and you've mentioned that sort of the part of his game. Yes, the 180 there, but 140 is a really key hit. These were his checkouts over 60 tonight across the 3 games. And for me, proves right now that probably between 61 and 120, I don't think there's anyone better. These were his checkouts. Led 1, like I says, over 60. Led 1. Checkouts of 64, 75, 78, and 78. Dame 1. Dame 2, 62, 80, 116, 141. Dame 3, 68, 68, 78. They are just prolific 2 dart checkouts, 3 dart checkouts. I don't think there is anyone better in the world at that part of a lead to be able to finish it off under whatever pressure you throw at him. Is there anyone who can compete with him when he's getting down to that sort of stage?
No, I don't think there is. And I think those 2 dart combinations, the 68s, the 78s, the thing for me with it is the number of times he hits it into as well and doesn't even go down to the last dart. Like, he's just so clinical, and it hurts every time he does it. Like, every time he does it, that hurts the other guy, especially when he makes it look so easy. It just does it in 2. Like, he's not under any pressure. It's not like he's missed the first one and then managed to find the last one in the corner of the bed. Like, it's treble 20, middle of the double 4. It's just comfortable every time for him. And you know for a fact, if he's left 68, regardless of what you leave, you ain't getting a shot. Like, it's just not going to happen. And I think, the only time I've kind of seen it in this entire Premier League, probably where anyone's rivaled that, was the week that Joe Cullen won it, where he hit every single one of those 2 darters. Other than that, no one else is anywhere near it.
Yeah, it is just prolific. Like I said, there's 2 68 jet outs throughout the night. There's 3 78 jet outs. There is a couple of ton plus ones which were in that Darren Anderson game. Yeah, they were in there, but it's just the manner of him doing it. Those 78s, I can't remember all 3. I know at least 2 of them though were done within 2. And like you said, he's not worried about leaving tops, which isn't his best friend, as we all know that double 16 is. But for me, though, those two dart combinations at the moment are what is having a big impact. It's in a boxing term, it's probably just having that jab and constantly hitting with that jab. It's not an off-head blow.
Keeping your arm's length constantly.
Yeah. It's not a 9 dart. It's not a 170. It's not these sort of knock-head blows, but it's just constantly jabbing, but with so much force that it's having that impact throughout.
Absolutely. He's Vladimir Klitschko right now. He's just winning the fight with his jab. It's exactly what Katie Taylor could have done on Saturday night and probably won that fight easily, but instead she wanted to tear up and made it one of the best fights we've ever seen. But again, we're going off topic.
No, but it's the relation of what Clayton is doing to his opponents. He's just constantly making sure that he's down there and those 140s you are having to hit. Sometimes even 12 darts is not enough to break him because his 140s are so consistent and he's getting down to these scores and they always seem to be similar checkouts to this leave, and it's just so prolific on it. For him now to be guaranteed, I just hope that motivation is there for Johnny for the next 3 weeks of I want to be top of the tree. I want to be top of the tree. Not I've qualified, let's now relax, because it would be good to see him. Yes, there's a break from the final night to the playoffs, but it would be good to see him going into that, winning it by 8 points, winning it by 9 points, and having that confidence going into that final. But
win another night, guarantee it. Just go out there and dominate again for another night and win it, and go. That's it. It's guaranteed now.
Yes, and just before we will look at the next night and see if you predict Johnny to win consecutive nights, let's hear from the man himself.
I wanted to get into the playoffs, and I've done that. So part 1 done. Part 2 is try and win it again.
Do you feel you've got Michael's number in finals at the moment?
I'd take that. If you say that, I'd take it. But listen, I've been battered so many times against Michael Van Gerwen. It's nice to beat him. So, yeah. I think that the 4 that's there now are going to be hard to change. But that's the funny game, Any one of us can win matches, and whoever's 5, 6, 7, 8, they can all win matches. And who knows? Until that, that last night that we get 4 qualifiers on that league table, who knows?
He's never going to admit, or he's never going to show the arrogance that we get from Peter and Michael and that. No. But it's always good to see.
So down to earth, isn't he?
Yeah, it's always good to see the different personalities. And with Johnny there, it's so well just to bounce that back to sort of say to Phil, if you're saying that, that's good to hear. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
It's sort of Johnny Clayton all over. It's good to hear.
Hearing it, and you can tell it makes him happy hearing it, but he's not going to say it himself, and he's not going to blow his own trumpet. He just gets on with it.
It was just get on with it. So, before I'll just run you through the league table just to let you know that the interview with Peter Wright and Johnny Clayton, if not already, will be on our YouTube channels. Normally we only have the one interview, but as tonight Peter was willing to come and speak to the press, we've got 2 interviews this week from Glasgow. So, Premier League table, Tam, going into week 14. As I've said, Johnny Clayton is now confirmed and will be in Berlin in June for the playoffs. He's on 34 points. Michael Van Gerwen is in second on 28 points. James Wade is in third on 25 points. Peter Wright is in that final playoff place on 20 points. In 5th place, it's Joe Cullen on 15 points. Derwin Price is 6th with 13 points. Michael Smith is 7th with 12. And Darry Anderson is 8th with 9 points. So still a 5-point gap between Joe Cullen and Peter Wright. Michael Van Gerwen just needs one more win across any of those 3 nights to secure his place in the playoffs. Also, if results go his way, he could also secure a place in the playoffs. But I'm sure MVG would like to get that win under his belt.
Yeah.
Just moving on then to next week, Tam. Part of the night, which is always a lot of fun because we always change our minds so often. And for myself, and it's normally Dob, we are normally messaging you on the Monday because we forgot our predictions from the Thursday of who we have done for. So,
do you want me to write them down again like I did for God this week, last week?
That would certainly help, Tam, because it puts me in an easier place on Monday night for when I've changed my mind.
Right. Hang on a second.
But
right, we're ready to go.
We are ready to go. So night 14, we are going to Sheffield. As I said, just 3 weeks remaining. Sheffield, London and Newcastle. Game number 1. I'm not sure there is a bit of game in this quarter-final if it's game number 2, which shows that we are in for a belter from the start in Sheffield. And we go with Joe Cullen versus James Wade. Early on, you was edging towards James Wade. Tam, you still edging that way in this first one?
Yeah, as much as I want to see that 4th place battle get really close and go tight and see Cullen push right for it all the way and it go right down to last week, I don't think this is the week he puts the pressure on him. I just think James Wade, as much as he got beat quite comfortably tonight, he didn't play particularly badly. He played the sort of James Wade game that we generally see. He just got a little bit bullied by Johnny Clayton where he didn't give him a chance. And I just think James Wade will be too consistent for Joe Cullen in this. We've seen flashes from Cullen, but we've not seen him put it together on a consistent basis. And I think Wade probably runs out a 6-3 winner here.
Heart or head? Heart or head? Heart or head?
Yeah, I played that game as well.
It's not just that. It's, you know what you're going to get with James Wade. And as always, it's what you're going to get from the opponent. And that opponent normally has to store 6 or 7. And it's always so weird normally to have it. That opponent normally has to store 6 or 7 points more than Wade to get that win. It didn't happen tonight, but it did for the first probably 6 legs of that game.
Yeah.
You know, I want this. I'm not convinced still on this Premier League format, but I hope we have a bit of a fight off for that final playoff place. It's only going to happen between Joe and Peter. So I'm going to go for Joe to get the better of James Wade, to keep that fight going for 1 more week, because I think if Peter gets a win and Joe doesn't, that is sort of spoiled. So I'm going to go Joe Cullen 6. This is also the issue, Tam. You can't beat James Wade close, because if it's close,
No.
James Wade wins.
I know, but can you see James Wade not getting at least 5 legs? That's the thing.
I'm going to go 6-3 Joe Cullen, just on the basis Joe's got the throw and it's just 1 break to throw. Similar to the final we saw tonight, just 1 break to throw. And Joe Cullen gets the better of James Wade. As I said, he's still a bit of Dame than Dame number 1. Durbin Price certainly is, which is Dame number 2. It's Price versus Darry Anderson. We've seen a better performance from Darry Anderson tonight in his first game. Can he get the better of the Welshman, Tam?
No. I mean, I didn't think he would get a result tonight, I'll be honest. And as much as he played better, and he did look a little bit better tonight, he didn't have a lot to beat either tonight. Gezi will not give it you that easy. Even when Gezi's not playing well, he's still going to be mid to high 90s and still scrapping in there. So I actually think we see Gezi play quite well this week, and I think he wins 6-1. Is that a bit mean? It might be a little bit mean, but I think he wins comfortably.
Tam, we're ready to predict. Honesty is the best policy. I think he wins. The one thing I will say is if Darry plays the 2 days at the Pro Tour, which is very weird for us to have this year, is have a Pro Tour leading up to the Premier League. If Darry plays in those and can have a good run in one of those, it can give him confidence. And he's not coming up against someone, let's be honest, who is playing out of this world at the moment. I just think there's sort of a knot on for Darry to do well. He has to do well at the Pro Tour to then come into this. So that's probably why right now, if I had to pick, I'd be down with Gezi. So I'm not going to be as full on Dando as what you have, but I'm going to go 6-4 to Durbin Price. And Dan, these games just dead. Who doesn't love to see MVG Peter Wright? We've got a player who can win and secure his place in the finals. And yes, if there's probably one player MVG would like to secure his place, then it's the current world champion. We've then got the current world champion who's fighting for a place in the playoffs. Can Peter Wright change? And probably another one, I'm going to put it in the same category as Darry Anderson. Will those 2 days of hopefully using the same darts leading into a Premier League night, help Peter Wright out?
I don't know, because we're not quite seeing it yet still, even with using the right darts, that there's not quite the consistency there yet. And MVG's got the throw, which helps. And I just think he's just playing the better of the two right now. And as much as I've said, it's Joe's got an opportunity to go and put pressure on Wright tonight, and that I don't think he'll. Sorry, not tonight, next week. Then I don't think he'll do it because I think he'll lose to Wade. I don't think he loses any ground either, though. And I think MVG beats Wright, and then it still is open for Joe to go and have a go again the week after. I don't think he'll blow him away, but I don't think we get a last leg decider. I think it'll be 6-4 MVG.
I'm going same scoreline. I've just got a feeling it does help Peter. I think Peter, that's the better of him. So I'm going same scoreline, but I'm going Peter Wright in that one. And then the final one, probably the one that if you was picking a banter for the night, and I'm sure BoyleSports will have that in mind, a banter for next Thursday. You've got first versus seventh. Can Michael Smith upset the odds and get the better of Johnny Clayton, or will the Ferret continue and get extra points on the board and build that lead on the rest, Cam?
I don't know. I'm heart over head again at this point, and we all know I like Michael Smith, and I've backed him a lot of times this year on this stream, and it's not come to fruition. And the last few weeks, I've got a little bit away from it and kind of started to write him off. I thought he played okay tonight, and I think maybe he could do it. And I think he can win 6-5 against Johnny Clayton and keep himself just about in the hunt for that fourth and final spot. Because he's not that far back. And with a couple of wins, he's certainly still in it.
It's pretty far back, Tam.
He's got 12 points. He needs 8 points to just get level. But looking at my predictions, if both Cullen and Wright lose, if he can have a decent run, he's back in there.
She's on for Michael Smith.
6-5.
Only one winner for me is Johnny Clayton. Just to answer Tommy's question in the chat, could there be a scenario where the last 2 weeks are pointless towards the playoffs? Very much so, Tommy. Yep. How that would work is if James Waiton get the better of Joe Cullen, and then Peter Wright goes on and wins it. Joe then to catch Peter still. However, it would mean Joe Cullen winning both weeks and Peter Wright losing first round in both weeks.
Would that be the same even if Wright wins it and Wade gets to the final? It would just about, wouldn't it? Just.
Yeah, so
So Wright wins it, he gets to 25 points. Wade gets to final, he gets to 29. And Joe's
would still be on 15.
It could, on leg difference, though. That's the only way you could do it, on leg difference, isn't it?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. So that is a possibility. So we will move on to our final picks. Everyone in the chat room, who's going to win and be runner-up next week?
Hang on a second. Did you give a score?
I didn't. Johnny Clayton. This is going to sound as harsh as you was on Darry Anderson, but Johnny Clayton's just too good at the moment. So I'm going to go 6-2 Johnny Clayton.
I actually wrote that down before you said it then as well, when you said harsh, and I'd already written 6-2 in on the...
Yes, Tommy, it is a little bit confusing working at the league table. It's probably more confusing because no one looks at the league table until the end of the night. that's forgotten about. Hopefully,
Half the time we forget about it. There's been many weeks of this that we've not even looked at it.
Yeah, so that can happen at times. But yes, I am going for a convincing Johnny Clayton win. So your finalist, Tam, and what happens in that final?
So, Wade beats Gezi. And we get a little bit of revenge in the other semi-final from tonight. And Smith beats MVG. And we see the full house. Michael Smith. I'm back in his corner. He wins the week. And we see everyone has won a week throughout the Premier League.
No.
Well, obviously not, because you had him getting beat 6-2 in the first round.
Not only do I have him beat in the first round, I have him beat by the winner of next week.
Okay.
I was just so impressed by Johnny tonight. In the top half, I want to keep that playoff dream alive. So my head is picking Johnny Clayton to win it. My heart is picking Joe Cullen to have a deep run. So Johnny will beat Joe in the final. But I just can't look past him at the moment, especially in this sort of format. Just seems to suit him down to a ground. I'm intrigued to see him getting more and more final nights in Euro Tour because it feels it's exactly the same sort of format, just different players.
Yeah.
But for me, I just can't see Johnny Clayton getting to that stage and not picking up a win if he's playing Joe Cullen. Just someone with that bit more. Obviously, we've seen him lose to Wade last week, but that experience of getting there, and I'm going for Clayton to win. So, thank you very much to everyone who joined us in the chat room. Once then, apologies for the stream on the live lead, but hopefully, as I haven't heard much from you or the people who are fitting it, that is all resolved now.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you very much for everyone who has jumped in, who stayed with us, who has listened to the clips. Remember, they are available on YouTube. As always, thanks very much to BoyleSports for their continued support for the Fallout Bar and our live lounge coverage. We will be keeping you updated on our website from the events going on this weekend. We will be back on Tuesday and Wednesday for some streaming on the Pro Tour events. Tam will be back next Thursday, either with me or Darb. I believe it will be Darb next week. I haven't looked at our rota.
I'm definitely down again for it next week.
I already saw that one and saw that you were back down. So thanks very much for everyone's continued support. More importantly, and finally, Tam, thank you very much for joining us again on a Thursday evening as we close to that hour. And it's another Premier League night.
We have properly waffled on tonight.
Yes, it's another Premier League night, and it's another Johnny Clayton win. Good night, all.